Previously on the Rod Pedersen Show.
Breaking news. Philip Rivers is going to always want to play again. Talk to any retired football player. They're always going to want to play again. For the older football, they don't go by what he says. Philip Rivers struggled when he did play. Talking about coming back 2 years out. I remember this. I realized that, and hockey players aren't a whole lot different than football players, but the football players are worse. You got to largely drag them kicking and screaming from the field. And I remember this, Dupes. Do you remember the old swamp dog, Ron Este? I just talked to his wife a couple weeks ago. He was the defensive line coach for the Riders for years, and he felt like family to me. And his wife's Debbie, and they're living down there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And he won. He was on those Eskimo teams, the 5 in a row, 70s as well, iconic Edmonton team. So the people in Edmonton would know the name Ron Este. He's in the Eskimos Hall of Fame, Canadian Football Hall of Fame, LSU Tigers Hall of Fame. He's in every Hall of Fame. And he was the guy that talked like the water boy in the water boy. Who was the coach he couldn't understand? Was it the coach? Bobby Boucher? Swamp, yeah. We could never understand him. He had this southern drawl. We couldn't understand him. But I remember one time, Este, when he was with us with Saskatchewan, he said he would cut one arm, we'll win one point. We're like, what? You put subtitles under that? And I can't remember. One of the other coaches said he'd cut his arm off to have just one more play.
Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show.
Some leather-lunged New Yorker. He's cheering for the Panthers, but he's behind me, and he was making all these jokes. He's like, yeah, the Panthers are losing by a hair. You know, I heard these Florida fans are rabid, but this is ridiculous. Anyways, and then security came down. Right from everybody, because the rabbit's not hurting anybody. I was kind of hoping the rabbit would crap all over the kids.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Hello, everybody. Let's get at it. Happy weekend. Happy Friday. And by name, we call this a Football Friday, but we're not opening with football. We're opening with the Quick Six show topics, which we're going to get to in a moment because our analytics show that this is the highest rated portion of the day, the warm-up. And we've got the Moose with us. Maybe that's why it's the highest rated portion. He joins us from the NHL's Bermuda capital. I will say later on, it is going to be a big Canadian Football League day, but not right now. We're going to go live to Saskatchewan Roughriders training camp in hour one with leader post writer Taylor Shire, and live to Ottawa in hour two with AJ Jakubec, the voice of the Ottawa Redblacks and host of Ottawa Senators games. But I'm going to jump right into it. Can you hit the Quick Six show horn, please? Price today. No Jordan. I see that my Florida peeps have tuned in. Specifically, Thad, the big TK. You know him, Moose. You met him. And I'm a little surprised to hear from him so early today because that's my first point. Matthew Tkachuk scored the game-winning goal with 13 seconds left in the fourth overtime. And the Florida Panthers topped the Carolina Hurricanes 3-2 Thursday night. The Panthers took a 1-0 edge in the best-of-7 Eastern Conference final. The game marked the 15th four-overtime game in NHL history. So let's just settle in on that for a second because people have come here. They're expecting me to talk about some hockey today and the Florida Panthers. I was at... Let's slow it down for a second. I was at the watch party at a place called The Backyard with Thad in Fort Lauderdale. Our little group was all Panthers season ticket holders, okay? And one of those was Jess. You know Jess, Darren. You met her when you were down here. And she's looking around. This place is jammed. You couldn't get another body in there with a friggin' shoehorn. And she's like, I have never seen 98% of these people all year. Doesn't matter. The place was going nuts. It was so much fun. It was beautiful hot out. You've been here. You've seen it. The Panthers Well, it was a back-and-forth game, right? 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2. Then the Panthers thought they'd scored in overtime. The Lamborghini, Thad's favorite player, Ryan Lomberg, Sportsnet posted that the game was over. Some 20-year-old intern geek fired today looking for a job because he had the itchy trigger finger, saying the Panthers won the game in the first overtime. It went to 4. And let me just answer the question that everybody's asking. How late did you stay up? Did you see the goal? Well, I left the backyard with just under 10 minutes to go in the third period. I listened to Doug Plagans on the way home. I watched one overtime, and then I went to bed. Serena woke me up today to tell me who won the game. I was like that little kid at Christmas. Time to get up. By the way, the Panthers won. And the radio guy for the Panthers, Doug Plagans, is getting appropriately vetted and celebrated. Doug Plagans calls those road games alone, as you've learned, Darren. I don't know how he did it. Not only did he have a voice to call the winning goal with 13 seconds to go in the fourth overtime, he had a strong voice with 13 seconds to go in the fourth overtime. I've called those games. I've called them. TSN did it in 1996. We went to 4 overtimes. Pats and Hurricanes ourselves. I didn't have a voice. Doug did. What a night, Moose. There's my opening soliloquy. What's yours?
Yeah, pretty wild. Pretty wild when you see a game like that. I mean, you got great goaltending for both sides. You got action. And if this is kind of game one is supposed to set the tone for the series. If we're setting the tone for the series, Rod, you better start sleeping in the mornings, because this is going to be wild. These games are going to be tight. They're going to be back and forth. And I think we're going to get some late nights. This probably won't be the only overtime we see in this series.
Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about the game. Thad informing us he left after the third period. Thank you, Thad, for your honesty. And also for saving me your chair, because they brought in armchairs, I guess. Those foldable ones. And he's like, you sit here, sit here. We split it about 50-50. John Ohm says that watch party looked amazing on Instagram, Rod. Yeah, go to my own personal Rod Pedersen official or the show's at the Rod Pedersen Show, and you'll see it was bedlam in the backyard. That's the name of the bar in Fort Lauderdale. And to be honest, you didn't know me back then, Darren, and Thad sure as hell didn't. But I did lean over to him and I said, you know what, Thad, back in the day, I would not have seen the end of this game. They would have carried me out of here, and nobody would have had more fun. But I would have spent till supper time the next day issuing apologies for my behavior. So that's what I don't miss. So, moving on, I think this dovetails nicely into our second point, and that is who's leading the Conn Smythe Trophy discussion right now for the MVP of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And we put our heads together today. It looked like a rock pile, I'll be honest. All of our staff at our morning meeting, which we do virtually, and this is what we came up with. 1 per team of the 4 players that are left. And by the way, our poll is for Key Auto Group. When it's time to transition into the world of electrified vehicles, the all-new Nero Hybrid is the perfect first step. Call Key Yorkton Kia at 306-783-2772 or go to keyyorktonkia.com for more information. The 23 Kia Nero, movement that inspires. Our options are these. Jack Eichel, who's leading the Golden Knights in scoring. Joe Pavelski, who has set a Dallas Stars franchise record for 8 goals scored in round 2 alone. Joe Pavelski. From the Carolina Hurricanes, Sebastian Aho, who's done great things. And then the one that we're getting some pushback and consternation on is the great Chuck E. Cheese. And I'm here to talk about it. I'm here. I have time for the debate. There's a little bit of recency bias here with why we went to the Matthew Tkachuk as the Panthers representative for the Conn Smythe Trophy. And I'm not saying he's necessarily going to win it. Remember, we're only 2 rounds and 1 game in to the playoffs. There's still a lot of hockey left. Some recency bias here. Chucky scored the game winner last night. Bob is just the 3rd goalie ever to make 50 saves in back-to-back games, and I can't even remember the last 2. My guess is they didn't even wear a mask. So I got time for Bob, but Matthew Tkachuk is the face of the franchise. Trust me, everybody's talking about Bob right now. But I think Matthew Tkachuk would be the guy. He's one of 3 finalists for the league MVP right now. And it's not all about play on the ice. It's about schutzpah and who's hot at the time. So, and I'm voting for Tkachuk, obviously. Who are you voting for in the Conn Smythe poll right now, if we have it right?
Yeah, I want to vote for Bob. I can't vote for him, but I want to vote for Sergei Bobrovsky. and for me, it's as simple as this team was out of the playoffs until they turned to Bob. This team was dead. They were done. They weren't coming back. Matthew Tkachuk, Barkov, Ekblad, doesn't matter. It's when they turned to Sergei Bobrovsky that everything turned around and they became a different hockey team. And it's Bob for me and Bob alone why they're here right now. So I would vote for Bobrovsky, but I can't. So I got to vote for Tkachuk. I got to vote for Tkachuk right now.
Okay.
Because if it's not Bob, it's Chucky.
You people have the next day, almost 24 hours. You people have the next day to vote in our poll, but we have breaking news on this Friday. Chris Johnston from TSN reporting Kyle Dubas will not return as general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I have to be honest with you, view from 35,000 feet, why are you doing this? The guy made more trades than anybody else at the deadline to save his own ass. I thought they just had to get out of round one. I'm sorry, that's what I thought. Bernie Nichols came on here and said that everybody keeps their jobs if they win round one, and they did. And now Dubas is out. So Troy in Toronto says, who will be the new Leafs GM, a veteran or a newbie? Robin in Prince Albert says, it's Football Friday, and Kyle Dubas is out as the Leafs GM. Maybe it's Patrick Waugh. Although after having spoken with his people yesterday, he's not talking to the Leafs. That wasn't the team that one of the teams that he was talking to. So anyways, enough about me. You're the Leafs fan. What do you think?
To me, and it's just coming down now and seeing the notification and kind of briefly seeing what TSN has put out, Chris Johnson and the story here and the quote from Shanahan, it sounds like this was Brendan Shanahan's decision and not Kyle Dubas's. It sounds early on like this was Shanahan making a decision for the team not to bring Kyle Dubas back or attempt to re-sign him. His contract is going to expire this summer. Kyle, in his emotional press conference last week, talked about, he'd have to think long and hard about if he wants to come back and what he wants to do and how hard this was for the family. And I think, you start to wonder the emotional Kyle Dubas we saw throughout the year, and especially in the playoffs, jostling with fans, slamming press doors, getting really upset. You don't see that from a lot of GMs up in the booth. You just don't. And, is that something that Brendan Shanahan wants to bring back? Is he seeing the frustration and saying, look, this is not what we want. We want to build off of the success in round one and go in a different direction. So it's a big change for sure for the Maple Leafs organization today.
Well, literally, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. I didn't watch the Dubas news conference. I relied on you to report on it for me. There's 1,000, probably more than 1,000 guys that want your job, Kyle. So if you don't want it and you're not the right guy for the job, please get out the way, because there's lots of guys and gals that do. We got to put the hammer down here. We have 5 minutes left in this segment. Moose is going to be with me for the first two, and then Taylor Shire live from Roughriders training camp. But there's a couple of Canadian Football League items I want to say. There is a game on Monday. It's a national holiday in Canada, Thad, just so you know. And it's the Edmonton Elks at the Calgary Stampeders. Now, the game's not on television, but today, the Canadian Football League made a huge announcement. They're furthering their commitment to fans by providing free access to more games than ever before. A verified email address will be all that's required to unlock the league's first ever live streaming platform, CFL Preseason Live and CFL Plus. The full slate of preseason games will now be accessible to all fans. In-season TSN and RDS will continue to be the home of the CFL in Canada, in the United States of America. USA! USA! CBS Sports Network and CFL Plus will split broadcasting duties, while the online platform will also deliver the full season to all fans outside of North America. So to be quite honest with you, it's not a lot different than the last deal with ESPN. There was usually 1, 2 at best games on linear television, as Randy Ambrosi likes to say. That's cable television on ESPN. And then the other 2 you had to watch streaming. I watched 4 a weekend because I'm a big CFL guy. And what they're telling me today is there'll be just as many games on CBS Sports Network. And for those that aren't, you can watch on CFL Plus. So call me happy. But But you can also watch CFL football live with me. Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip, hosted by The Rod Pedersen Show in Engelheim. Tickets are available now at rodpedersen.com. It includes charter transportation from Engelheim on June 23rd, from Regina to Calgary and back June 25th. 2-night accommodations at Hotel Cleat, Calgary Airport. That's our host hotel in Calgary. With complimentary breakfasts each day, exclusive pre- and post-game parties hosted by moi, and a ticket to the Roughriders and the Stampeders on June 24th. Don't delay. Get your seats now. Go to rodpedersen.com and click on the banner. But we have a note today, breaking news from Woody's RV. If I can get this right, this is directly from Russ at Woody's RV. He runs the whole damn show. It's buy one, get one. Buy one, get one. Woody's would like you to bring a loved one or a friend on Woody's. Purchase an RV at Woody's. That's all you have to do. You're going to buy an RV anyways, right? So if you do, and if you buy a ticket, you can join us on the football road trip. Woody's will buy you an additional ticket. So that's just in the venue. You don't even have to get a spot on the bus. You buy a ticket to the game, they'll buy your second ticket. BOGO. Purchase an RV at Woody's, and if you buy a ticket to join us on the football road trip, Woody's will buy you an additional ticket. There, we got it. Bring your best bud, your kid, your significant other. Heck, even bring Grandma. Because she loves her Riders, damn it.
Hell yes.
So that's what it is. You buy one ticket, Woody's will buy you your second. Wow. Woody's RV. Well, that's the smoking deal that we have today. We'll come back on that in a moment because it is a Football Friday. Blue Jays, 0.4, the Toronto Blue Jays back in action tonight, hosting another American League Eastern rival in the Baltimore Orioles. Toronto fell 4-2 to AL East foe, the Yankees, last night, going 1-3 in that 4-game series. 0.5, how about Cam Newton? You saw the news. The Albany Empire of the something Indoor Football League has offered Cam Newton a contract. And whether he accepts it or not, to me, this might just be a marketing gimmick. I never heard of the Albany Empire before or this league, but now I have. I don't think that he's going to go, but what do you think, Moose?
Yeah, I don't think so. Cam Newton, I've heard him in the offseason saying he can still start and play in the National Football League and wants to. I don't think he's going to go to an indoor football league or any other league until he absolutely has exhausted everything to do with the National Football League. I really don't.
I'm with you. And here's the thing about playing football. Well, I've never played it. But the guys that I know at the high level, it's not necessarily real fun. Who wants to be in the gym 3 hours a day? As a running back, who wants to be hit 5 times on average every time you touch the ball? Right? Quarterbacks, there's a lot of pressure on them. Now, I will say that I've had a lot of friends play indoor football. Arena League, the Indoor Football League. I've had a lot of friends. And they love that league. But I don't think Cam Newton's going to be heading there anytime soon. John Ohm, where is my gong? Here it is. John Ohm says, I would go on that CFL road trip, but I have a golf tourney that weekend. I know, Rod. I said that dreaded word, golf. John, I love you. You know that, but you need to work on your listening and retention skills. I don't have a problem with golf. Stop trying to get me to golf. It's interesting because in our 12-step meeting this morning, we talked about self-centeredness. Is it self-centeredness for me to say, leave me alone? Go golf 36 holes a day, bro. I don't care what you do. Just stop asking me to come. Jeneth Four Seasons says, good morning, everyone. The Jays game is on that Apple TV tonight. Ugh. I'm ready for some more playoff hockey. I love the way she said that. It's on that Apple TV. You got one of those? Mel? Did you get one, Mel? That Apple TV? We're just getting into it now. We'll be right back. It's the warm-up. We're live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, your favorite podcast platform and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip, hosted by The Rod Pedersen Show and Engelheim. Tickets now available at rodpedersen.com. Charter transport, accommodations at the beautiful Hotel Clique, June 23rd to 25th. All the details at rodpedersen.com.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult, because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
All right, it is hot here in South Florida. It's fantastic, and I'm not going to allow the people to annoy me. Moose, Darren Moose Dupont is with us from the NHL's NHL's Bermuda now? Triangle. No, well, I'm just not good. No, they're not even really, they're not trying. This is a me problem, not a them problem. I'll just say this from Craig Smith, our director of scouting. He says, my dad said a while back he thinks Florida would take it all. Talking about the Stanley Cup. He says, never saw that dominant Canes team we saw in other areas. Panthers obviously have something to do with it. And that's why I don't get into analytics and I don't really like stats. I read them and I love the history and stuff, but it doesn't mean anything. All the talk before the series. And we're like any other media. Shane Willis came on here, the Hurricanes color broadcaster, longtime friend of mine, 25 some years. He broke down, well, the Carolina Hurricanes have the deeper defense, and they might have the deeper depth scoring, and it could come down to goaltending. None of that mattered last night. None of it. Brandon Montour played 58 minutes for the Florida. It's going to be settled by the players. It's not about history. It's not about analytics. It's not about expected goals, which, by the way, what the hell is that? I don't even know.
And at least I'm happy that please don't try to explain it to me because I don't care. It's the eye test. Smitty knows it. Smitty knows it. You can talk about players that have all these long what do they call them? Metrics, measurables. Who had the most heart? Florida Panthers got the most heart. Anyways, regarding the huge announcement from Woody's RV, now they've stepped up to the table. If you purchase a ticket on our bus trip, our roadie, from Saskatchewan to Calgary for the June 24th game, you buy one ticket, Woody's will buy the second. You bring whoever you want. He said, Russ said, what do you say? Loved one, a friend, even your grandma. What if you bring somebody you don't like? 8 hours there, 8 hours back, you might end up liking each other by the end of it. Because I'm pretty sure if you take friend or family, you might end up hating them by the time. Never mind.
Yeah.
Jake Hughes writes in from the Hughes Sports Podcast. He says, it's been a few days, but as RP and team talked about the CFL Plus and CFL preseason streaming platform, we did, brah. Last segment. Coffee starts at 10 Mountain. We can't go back for you. You came into the class late. Fortunately for you, this ain't 1987. You can just go zip back on your YouTube screen and go watch it yourself because we're not going to cover it again. Swerve says, seriously, who has money to buy an RV? You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. I will read one more note here. Brian in Beausejour, Manitoba writes in on the 902 text line, and he says, good day, RP squad. Well, Moose, you're moving to the big smoke. For those that don't know, that's Toronto. He says, in that case, can you hook me up with tickets for the Leafs, Jays, Argos, Raptors? LOL. He says, good luck and enjoy the new environment down east. What's it been like since I dropped your news on, was it Wednesday that you're moving to Calgary, Moose? What's that been like for you?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. There hasn't been quite the, that's the first time I've been asked for tickets. So that should be the first and last time I get asked for tickets. Okay? Let it be known. I'm not getting you tickets. But I will take you up on if you want to go for coffee down there. I know Troy is going to do that. So no, it's been really good and excited to go. I mean, the set here in the home studio looks really good. But if you just go over there, it's a tornado has been through here. So lots of stuff to do, packing and whatnot.
Of course. A couple things. Arlen Bruce has checked in, AB3. He says, I'm with you, RP. Golf. If I don't get a hole-in-one after the first shot, I'm done golfing for the day. Find me a go-kart so I can go mingle.
How about that?
That's the thing. I got nothing against golf. Nothing against it at all. Just stop asking. Where's Wayne and Victoria? Wayne and Victoria says, I have to say, I don't understand golfers who want you to join them all the time. I have to agree with Rod. Dude, it's what's... I laughed with Darren the second we got off air the other day. I said, no, now you're just starting to get the questions that I don't get anymore. Why Florida? Why would you leave? Why would you? Nobody asked anymore because they can see how happy I am. But now you get all the questions. It's like the same thing with golf. Well, that's my point. People down here, do you golf, Rod? You want to golf? I don't golf. Okay, cool. See you next class. It's not my longtime friends that have asked for 40 years. You want to come golfing? No, I don't. Ah, come on. No, I suck. No, it's not about whether you're good or not. It's about the weather. I said no!
How about that?
We're out on the golf cart. They got the damn fish finder, sizing up their clubs. Can you just... I said no. Okay? Would you please stop asking? Okay. Next day. Rod, you want to come out golfing? What do you do? Anyways, Nelson from he's our VP of Sim Events. He says, a nice walk ruined by that damn white ball. Troy in Toronto says real golfers would never want to golf with non-golfers. I don't have 7 hours for a new guy to shoot 146. But that's, hey, I get triggered. I've got issues. I've got baggage. I was in a charity golf classic, and they had a Calcutta. You know what that is? Where the celebrity golfers were auctioned off. I was the second highest guy to go because they thought, well, Rod's a sports guy. He must be a great golfer. No, I'm terrible. And I was so bad, I was digging trenches out there on the course. They refused to sit with me at supper. I was that bad. I'm like, I'm never, ever doing this again. Write it down. Never. And, of course, the golfers are like, well, you just need to spend more time on the driving range. What part of I don't like this do you not get? John says, best rant ever. I will take 10% credit on that. And Navy Don writes in and says, Moose is off to Toronto? I feel like we're just running a best of episode today. Why don't we just do that?
Yeah, where you been, Don?
You need to watch every single day. And the thing is, Jake wants us to go back and talk about the CFL Plus and CFL preseason announcement today. And he's like, but I brought snacks for everyone. We start at 10. If you want to get on top of what the topics are that we're talking about, join us when the show starts. We can't slow this down for everybody because everybody else showed up on time. I told you I wasn't going to allow them to upset me, Darren. I'm not sure whether I've been successful with that or not. By the way, coming up later on in the audience takeover segment, after Taylor Shire, who is going to join us live from Saskatchewan Roughriders training camp in the next segment, this is what I would like to talk about. I talked myself into a circle of getting back on track, and I'm not sure that's ever happened. It's in our thumbnail today. Who is the nicest jersey in the Canadian Football League? Nicest uniform. And this ain't going to be popular with a lot of people, but I don't care. It's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It's the royal blue and what I would call the sand brown. I love it so much. Even when I was working for the Saskatchewan Roughriders calling games against them, my knees would get weak watching those jerseys. To me, it ain't close. And as a matter of fact, I think I might do a jersey ranking now that I think about it. But if you go back and you look, 20 years with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and God knows I love them. It's my home province and all of that, but very rarely did you see me photographed in green because it's just not my color. My dad worked for the Dallas Stars for 26 years. Very rarely did I wear any green Stars gear. It's not about the Riders. It's not about the Stars. My favorite color is blue. So I would say number one, Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Number two, Toronto Argonauts, double blue, navy and powder blue. Probably number three, the Montreal Alouettes, because it's very hard to beat red, white, and blue. Very hard. That's why most teams' colors are red, white, and blue. Patriot, Blue Jackets, Rangers. We don't need to go on and on and on. Nelson from, well, we all know who he is. He says, Winnipeg 1, Rider Retro 2. From Garrett Mathiasen, he says, Rider fan here, but the double blue is pretty sweet. So, yeah. I'm going to do a full-on jersey ranking later in the day, but not now. Moose, what are your top three?
It's not close either for me, but it's Toronto, number one, the Argos. The double blue.
How about that?
I mean, yeah, you have so many options because the navy blue is great, so good. And when you do just touches of the baby powder blue, it's so good. But then you can do all powder blue. I think it's just the best, and it's not close. Love, love, love the Toronto Argonauts. One, and then move all the way down. I like Calgary.
Oh.
I like the red and white.
Yeah.
Of Calgary. I think that's really good. That was always my number two, is I liked red and white. And then when they added a little black, it was neat too. So I would go Calgary 2, and I'll go with Winnipeg 3 because you're right, the navy. And when they get the little gold in there, I know it's sand, but like when they make it a little more golden, it really pops to Winnipeg's.
I'm sorry, you said Toronto 1, Winnipeg 2?
Nope, Calgary 2, Winnipeg 3.
Calgary 2. Okay. I'm writing these down. This will make a nice little Twitter segment for later. From Craig, our director of scouting, Craig Smith. He says, I love the royal blue. Hated when they wore navy, but I like all the jerseys. Brian in Beausejour, Manitoba says, way to go, Rod. I'll have to agree. Go Bombers, go. Wayne in Victoria, BC. I love blue as well, Rod, but when it comes to the CFL, green is the color. Hey, that's fine. I'm not sure there's a wrong answer to this. Ted in Red Deer says, Rider fan here. All the green Riders are the best, and I love the gunmetal gray Lions. That's the thing. I'm not going to do it, but you people can. You pick the jersey that you would like to represent your team in the best jersey contest. The Rider Retros from Labor Day are fantastic. Farmer in Saskatchewan writes, and he says, the matte black BC Lion. And honestly, I like the gunmetal Lions jerseys. John Ohm says, best uniform ever in the CFL was going back to the 90s, Memphis Mad Dogs. Sorry, not current, Rod. Current is the black and orange of the BC Lion. I was quite partial to the Sacramento Gold Miners. It was teal with a pickaxe, a gold pickaxe on its shoulder. So I feel like we have a topic that could carry us for a while, and I knew that it would. Moose, I'll see you back here for hour 2.
See you then.
We're going live to Saskatchewan Roughriders training camp after this. You are listening live on WQEE Radio. We are Atlanta's NHL show, just not today. Game Plus television, podcast, and live streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
All capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
gotta hit the beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat.
Aerial coverage of the RP show presented by Progressive Insurance. Breaking news from the National Hockey League today, which we'll spend more time on in the next segment. Sports Update. But Kyle Dubas is out as general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. The team said today it is, quote, parting ways with a 37-year-old executive whose contract was scheduled to expire on June the 30th. But it's a Football Friday, and we're going live to Saskatchewan Roughriders training camp of the Canadian Football League in Saskatoon. Taylor Shire joins us from the Regina Leader Post. I can hear the reps going at it right now. Taylor, welcome to the program today. We're going to jump right into it. This isn't your first camp by a mile, but it's your first for the Leader Post. How's it been?
So far, so good. Yeah, it's been fun to be up here in Saskatoon. There's less camera gear to lug around and a few less suits to pack, so I've been enjoying it so far.
Yeah, well, it goes back a long ways that you've been covering these things. Now, here's the top two stories I've seen, and you tell me more if there are. I'm sure there are. Number one, the forest fire smoke forcing them to move practice indoors, one, and two, the battle for the backup quarterback position behind Trevor Harris. Are those the top two stories?
I would say the smoke isn't anymore. It forced them indoors just for one day. So a minor blip in their schedule. I don't think that's the biggest story as we kind of near the green and white game on Saturday. But yeah, I think the backup quarterback story would be up there because Jake Dolegala has looked really good. He's probably the guy that's impressed me most this camp. Mason Fine, of course, was the backup last year, but I think Jake Dolegala is really pushing him. And then also Shea Patterson is in the mix as well. And he's the short yardage guy if he's going to make this team. So I imagine they're going to find room for him because I don't know if Dolegala or Fine is going to be that short yardage guy. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Harris, of course. Trevor Harris is going to start. And then either one of two or Dolegala or Fine for that backup spot with Shea Patterson in the mix as well for the short yardage.
You've been following this team in this league closely for a long time. Are they passing the eyeball test right now? What do they got up there?
Everybody looks good in camp, in my opinion. They're fast. They haven't done a lot. There hasn't been a lot of intensity because I figure that they're still figuring out who's sort of the leader and who's the alpha. And it ramped up a little bit when the pads got on. But, if you think about last year, there's, Cody Fajardo obviously led the team. He was kind of a vocal leader. And Duke Williams, Charleston Hughes, guys like that were here. And now we're sort of figuring out who that next leader is. So they look good. It's not as intense as years past. There's no fist fights with Garrett Marino and some offensive linemen. So the intensity is down a bit compared to last year. I think last year was kind of an anomaly, but I think it is ramping up. And once that first preseason game rolls around, I think that's, really when I can give a fair assessment. But they look fast and good so far.
You know what? That's a really good point about the veteran guys that are gone. I mean, dare I say, Charleston Hughes was looked upon as a leader on that team, and obviously Cody Fajardo was. You said they're looking for the next one. Is anybody standing out to you?
Well, Trevor Harris, I think, has already taken on a big leadership role. Jake Winicky, Darrell Walker, obviously on offense, given their experience across the league. I would say those three on defense or on offense. And I think the defense has remained pretty much intact. Obviously, Micah Johnson, Larry Dean. I think they're the core of the defense and the core of that leadership room. But you have a lot of other returning guys too. Pete Robertson is another guy. Nick Marshall, even Micah Teitz coming back. I think the defense, they have no problem figuring out their leadership, but it's really the offense figuring out, who's going to be the leader in that group, especially considering they have a new offensive coordinator. But I think they have been gelling, and it's kind of nice to have a bunch of new guys because they can develop a brand new identity as well.
I saw the head coach, Craig Dickinson, say that the backup job's wide open. Some have performed better than others, but he won't say who that is. What would be your rankings at 2, 3, and 4 behind Trevor Harris from what you've seen?
Well, like I said, Dolegala, I think, has got the number 2 spot. I think he's ahead of Mason Fine right now, and Shea Pedersen is, like I said, going to be that. Shea Pedersen can definitely throw the ball, and he's a good passer as well, but he's really going to be utilized in the short yardage game. So I think the preseason game will determine if it's Fine or Dolagala for number 2, whether that's the first preseason or the second preseason game, but that's how I would rank it. Harris, Dolagala, Fine, and then, well, Patterson's in there because he's a short yardage guy, like I said, so he's kind of like the 2B, if that makes sense.
How many jobs would you say are up for grabs? Actual open spots being contested?
Starting jobs?
Yeah.
Man, there's only, well, the offensive line is tricky because they're still figuring out who's going to start in there. I think Gerald Hawkins is the answer at left tackle, so I don't know if that job is really open anymore. He's had a good camp right now, and he's got NFL experience. Philip Blake's going to play left guard, in my opinion. Peter Godber's at center. So right guard, I would say, between Evan Johnson and Logan Ferland is still open. Right tackle between a couple of Americans is open. So there's 2 along the offensive line, in my opinion. The Canadian receiver spot, I think, is open. It's probably between Sam Emelis and Mitch Picton right now. When Kean Schaefer-Baker comes back, probably is his spot because Braden Lennius is also having a good camp. So that receiver spot between Emelis and Picton. The running back spot, in my opinion, Jamal Morrow still has a leg up. So, but Frankie Hicks has had a really good camp, so I think it's still Jamal's spot for now. And then I think on the defensive end, starting safety. Jaden Dalkey, in my opinion, will be the starting safety week 1. He's had a tremendous camp, but who's going to be that backup spot? Jackson Ford, does he stick around? Nelson Lacombo, what do they do with him, a former top pick? So I think we're at about 4 or 5 really key positions and a few other that are kind of penciled in.
Craig Smith, our director of scouting, wants to know how Evan Johnson is looking at right guard.
Yeah, he's, I mean, it's hard to judge an offensive lineman and even defensive lineman for that matter at camp because they're not going full speed. And Evan Johnson, Logan Ferland, they've kind of been the 2 rotating out of that right guard position. Of course, Logan Ferland played along the offensive line with Johnson last year, but it looks like with the addition of Philip Blake, it's going to be either Johnson or Ferland at that guard position. Johnson was working with the starters there today, so I'm going to say based on his experience and his salary, he's going to be the guy at right guard. But I think they do have a good second option in Ferland, and they got a bunch of other young guys too. Evan Florin's a draft pick; he's looked good. Zach Fry's coming in; he's a former draft pick 2 years ago. He's looked good, so they have options for sure if they do want to move on from a more experienced guy in Johnson.
Lou Gamelin's watching in Michigan, and he says, wow, Shea Pedersen, I wondered where he ended up. He's got quite a football resume for sure. I think that's why we brought Taylor on for this type of analysis. I'll lastly say this. The football guys are saying week 1, Sask at Edmonton. Massive game for both teams. It's the game of the week. Whoever wins it, big leg up. Whoever loses it's going to be answering a lot of questions, Taylor. Not getting off to a good start. Is there a sense of optimism there or a sense of tension in that camp? You've covered enough. You know that you can sense or feel it. What's the vibe?
Yeah, I don't know if there's tension quite yet. I think if they get off to a bad start, if they go 0-2 or even 1-3, 0-4 in the first 4 weeks, then the tension's going to ramp up a little bit. But right now, everybody's in camp. Everybody thinks this is their year to win the Grey Cup, and the Riders are no different. I think they think they've assembled a good team, and I think Jeremy O'Day has put a lot of pieces in place to make that judgment, because I believe it is an improved team from last year. Obviously going 6-12 last year was a disappointment. I think they're a better team, but I think every team in the West thinks they're better this year, aside from maybe BC, given that they lost Nathan Rourke. So I think Calgary thinks they're better. Edmonton thinks they're better. Winnipeg's still better than everybody else. So I think they're at the top spot. But then I think there's a whole mix of teams that are going to be battling for that number 2 spot, and the Riders are certainly among them.
Yeah, that's why everybody's so happy this time of year. Nobody's lost yet. This is the most optimistic time of the year. Taylor, a wonderful update. Thank you for this. Enjoy the Bridge City, and we'll talk down the line.
Thanks, Rod. Talk to you soon.
Great guy. He always helps us out. The Leader Post's Taylor Shire, formerly of Global Television. I'll answer all of your questions next. And we got A.J. Jakubec coming in from Ottawa in hour 2. Senators broadcaster, Red Blacks broadcaster, 67s, Blackjacks. What doesn't he do? We're live on the Game Plus television network, streaming sports radio, WQEE. Your favorite podcast, platform, and streaming.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip, hosted by The Rod Pedersen Show and Engelheim. Tickets now available at rodpedersen.com. Charter transport, accommodations at the beautiful Hotel Clique, June 23rd to 25th. All the details at rodpedersen.com.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
All right, welcome back, everybody. As we said, aerial coverage of the RP Show provided by Progressive Insurance. And breaking news today, we got great comments coming in related to the breaking news. Even though it's a football Friday, the Maple Leafs don't care. Kyle Dubas is out as general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. The team said Friday morning it is, quote, parting ways with the 37-year-old executive whose contract was scheduled to expire June 30th. The Leafs won a playoff series for the first time in nearly 2 decades this spring when they defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning before bowing out to the underdog Florida Panthers in a disappointing second-round showing. An emotional Dubas said at his end-of-season press conference he wasn't sure if he would continue on as GM citing the stress on his young family. I don't know how to feel about that, as Forrest Gump would say. I want to get into this with AJ Jakubec next hour because he's a longtime sports guy, career single guy. I've said this to many people, and I won't say to whom. You have to make a decision. Do you want to be successful at career, or do you want to be successful at family? Because I don't know too many that have been successful at both. You need to pick one. If you want to have a longevity in it and a long time at it. And God bless Kyle Dubas. Follows us on Twitter, seems like a nice guy. Citing the stress on his young family. I'll be honest with you. He's just being honest. And unfathomable stress to be the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's unfathomable stress to be the general manager of a junior B hockey team, let alone the Toronto Maple Leafs. But if you don't want to do it, get out the way. Move, B. Get out the way. Because there's a lot of guys and gals that want to do it. I'd love to get the insight on this, and I probably will at some point down at the hockey rink. But if you're not sure you want it, then you don't want it. So, see ya. That's my take. Leafs news conference coming up in just over an hour's time, according to Troy in Toronto. But it's not really funny, but Jeff Kabilas in Winnipeg writes in and says, new Shanna plan, LOL. Yeah, the Shanna plan. Rumple up, boop. He keeps his job, apparently. Mr. Google is the name of the account watching on streaming. Writes in, he says, I just saw the CFL Plus announcement, but it doesn't say where to sign up. Just hold on. I'm sure you'll find out over the weekend. Gimme. Now. One point I wanted to make, and we'll get to the CFL news of the day. Buffalo took care of the Toronto Rock in the NLL Eastern Conference Finals 2-0 to advance to their third straight NLL Finals appearance. They await the winner of the NLL Western Conference Finals Game 3 between Colorado and Calgary after they each won 1-goal games at home this past week. Game 3 goes Saturday in the Sandmark. Ahead of myself. In the Saddle Dome. The sports update is for Landmark Cinemas. In theaters now, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And one of these days I'll get this right. It's actually in theaters on June the 2nd. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place because there's a lot to get to today. For our friends at the CFL, I'll read this briefly. We'll come back and talk about it more after the break. But the CFL today announced they're furthering their commitment to fans by providing free access to more games than ever before. A verified email address will be all that's required to unlock the league's first ever live streaming platforms, CFL Preseason Live and CFL Plus. You're going to be able to watch all the preseason games for the first time ever on streaming. Isn't that great? And here in the States, we're going to get them all on streaming. We'll talk about that all right after this brief pause on Game Plus and the Key.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Selection, service, price, parts, and knowledge. That's the Woody's RV World difference. With 7 locations in Western Canada, there's always one nearby. Visit us today or at woodysrv.com. If adventure awaits, Woody's RV World is with you all the way.
Is it time to take your event online? Bring it to IKS Live. We've got a fully customized virtual event platform with remote guest support for your next fundraiser, talk show, conference, performance, and more. IKS Live offers live streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube and pre-recorded capabilities, both in our studio with green screen available and on location with pre-production and post-production services. Visit us at ikslive.ca.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
I gotta hit the beat.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Some leather-lunged New Yorker. He's cheering for the Panthers, but he's behind me, and he was making all these jokes. He's like, yeah, the Panthers are losing by a hair. You know, I heard these Florida fans are rabid, but this is ridiculous. Anyways, and then security came down. Woo, right from everybody, because the rabbit's not hurting anybody. I was kind of hoping the rabbit would crap all over the kids.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
It is. Thank you, Rick Regan. And we are live on Game Plus television across all 10 Canadian provinces on TV, 31 U.S. states on TV, including Florida. And we're on the radio in Atlanta. We're Atlanta's NHL show on WQE. Shout out Ryan O Radio. I checked in a couple times. We're sounded tickety-boo on WQEE, the key, and I thank Ryan for that. And the Moose joins us as we say we are on podcast form and live streaming as well on YouTube. Got some good numbers there today. It's a Football Friday. I hope everybody is enjoying the program as much as I am. I hope you are, Moose. I hope people are ready to just not coast into the weekend. Coasting, I hate the word coasting. I don't know if you saw my commentary near the end of hour one about career versus family and Kyle Dubas. I want to get your thoughts on the breaking news of the day. Your thoughts again on Kyle Dubas and the Toronto Maple Leafs parting ways. Because earlier in the week, I asked you what you would do if you were MLSE or Brendan Shanahan, and you said you'd keep him, Dubas, but you'd let go Sheldon Keefe. That was your take. We've had some fun topics in the air here. Arlen Bruce III checking in on my question, which was the quasi-secondary question, poll question today. What's the greatest CFL uniform?
And I kind of felt like right now, but of course, the audience of this show is like a kindergarten class. It's like herding cats. So all of a sudden, they're talking 90s teams. They're talking the friggin' 1994 Minnesota North Stars. Like, not really what I meant. But Arlen Bruce checks in and says, Hamilton Tiger Cats 2009 Golds. I'm saying the current Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Royal Blue and Sand. That's my fave. That's just me. Moose's is the Toronto Argonauts double blue, and people have kind of run away with it, and I like that. We're going to get to some Stanley Cup playoff talk, even though it is a Football Friday. But we've got big news from Woody's RV World. I want to tell you this. Russ is such a great guy over there. He's Calgary-based. He came down to Ace Casino. We met with him. He looks more like a pro football player than an RV salesman. Just saying. Very athletic. Kind of reminds me of, a lot of the former pro football players I used to work with. I think I wouldn't want to mess with Russ. And he has decided this is what we're going to do. If you buy an RV at Woody's RV World, they're going to throw in a free ticket on our bus trip presented by Woody's RV World at Engelheim for the June 24th game, Saskatchewan and Calgary. You buy a spot. Well, first you got to buy an RV, and who's not going to do that? And by the way, Swerve, it's been funny. He writes in and says, it's stressful knowing I can't afford an RV. We were talking about stress and how stress seems to have taken down Kyle Dubas. And trust me, I got it. I get it. Stress took me down, and I dealt with it in a very unhealthy way. I get it. But back to this. Come watch the Riders and Stampeders in Calgary, June 24th with us. And if you buy an RV at Woody's RV World, you'll automatically get a BOGO deal on our bus trip. So there you go. Oh, Allie in Texarkana writes in and she says, welcome to the dark side, Darren. It took me a second, but then I realized you're wearing a Dallas Stars shirt and you got a Dallas Stars flag behind you. Do you want to tell our viewers in 60 seconds or less why you're doing that?
Yeah, I had a little overnight trip in Dallas, and they gave me the full treatment. Stayed at the official hotel of the Dallas Stars, and Mr. Gallardi runs all the businesses down there, the whole deal, the Dallas Stars, the hotels, the bars, everything. And so I had a care package waiting for me when I pulled up, when I got to the airport, and my ride was there, and met my friend Cole, got to spend some time with him, and I'm all decked out in all the Stars gear, and they can't wait for the day that we bring the show to Dallas. So lots of good things happening right now in my little 12-hour layover in Dallas.
They've been asking a lot to get the show to Dallas, and I'd like to make that happen. By the way, so are you cheering for the Stars forever or just while they're still playing?
Well, Rod, believe it or not, I do listen when you speak. I do learn a thing or two from you.
How about that?
It's never a bad idea to cheer for the people who treat you well. So,
yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks for that. Thanks for listening. I am loyal to the teams that are good to me. And back in the day, the teams that are paying me.
Yes.
Stephen in North Dakota, speaking of all that, and people are chiming in on the CFL streaming and CFL Plus deal announced today. Trust me, we'll come back on that. Just Phil, we're getting there. Stephen in North Dakota writes it and says, greetings and no hallucination from sunny 13-degree Fahrenheit, Minot, North Dakota. Did you enjoy the Timex watch party? You know, he's got a sense of humor, and I think it's a bad one. Stephen in North Dakota. We actually chatted on the phone last night, and I don't think many of his jokes are funny, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. So I was going to the watch party, and I had a blast here in Fort Lauderdale, and I met a lot of great people. I sat with a lot of friends of mine that are Florida Panthers season ticket holders, and they're looking around. Like, had to be over 1,000 people there, and they're like, we've never seen these people before, ever. But they don't care. It's the thing to do. It's the bandwagon. I've told these stories 8 million times, but We were in 4 Grey Cups, the Canadian Football Championship, in my time, in a span of a decade. And at these Grey Cups, there were Saskatchewan Roughriders fans as far as the eye could see. And a year before that, they probably weren't. But it was the thing to do. Like, I was walking down the street in downtown Edmonton, 2010 Grey Cup. Bunch of guys in Rider jerseys. I'm like, hey, where are you from? They're like, Cambridge, Ontario. Rider fans? This week we are. Hey, okay. Sell them the jerseys. I almost bought a hat last night, but it was $38. I'm like, I can get this cheaper somewhere else. But anyways, the watch party was fine. I enjoyed as much the hockey game as I did the people watching. And I don't want to say who, but one of the people I was with said, oh, you don't go out in Fort Lauderdale. Out. Like Johnny Athens says, do you come out after midnight? No, I don't come out after 9 o'clock, bro. So in Fort Lauderdale last night, I'm like, I'm kind of getting an eyeful of what goes on when the sun goes down. And my friend that I was with, whom you know, he was like, you ain't seen nothing. He's like, this is the most normal people you're going to see in Fort Lauderdale on a Thursday night at 11 o'clock. I said, I'm good with it. I don't need to see more. Poll question today for our friends at Key Auto Group is, who is leading the Conn Smythe candidate race right now? And our options are Jack Eichel of the Golden Knights, Joe Pavelski of the Dallas Stars, Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes, or Matthew Tkachuk of the Florida Panthers. Just so you know, Tkachuk leading the poll on Twitter with 70% of the vote. He scored the winner last night in quadruple overtime. And he's leading for the Florida Panthers, who are up 1-0. What are they saying on YouTube, Clark? Chucky. Oh, 81% Chucky. They deferred to me as the Florida Panthers guy as to who would be their rep in this poll. Moose said if Bob was an option, you'd vote for Bob. But he's not. So who did you say you were going to vote for? Who'd you say you were going to vote for?
Chucky. I voted for Chucky.
Well, there you go. Right. They're not this far without either one of them. You know, it's we like to make people think. Sean O'Neill watching on YouTube says, I think Bob deserves the Conn Smythe as of now. Cool. There's no wrong answer to this. I'll be interested to see how this all pans out. From Key Auto Group is the presenting sponsor of our poll question daily. When you buy with Key Auto Group, they are with you from start to finish, offering you the top tier service you deserve, all just a click away at keyautogroup.ca. As I said last night, told my friends, you didn't know the old me. I would have been carried out of this place back in the day, but spent the next day apologizing, so I don't miss those days. But funny how things all tie together. The voice of the Florida Panthers, Doug Plagans, is getting considerable kudos for calling that game alone last night. I don't know how he does it. I've called hundreds of games alone, and I hated it. But he does it for the Florida Panthers, and his voice was as strong on that winning goal by Tkachuk with 13 seconds left in the fourth overtime as it was at the start of the playoffs. Ain't easy to do. But when I called a game that went 4 overtimes, it was on TSN, Lethbridge, Regina in 1996. I couldn't get out to go to the bathroom, Moose, so I was taking a leak in the garbage pail in the back of the broadcast booth. Speaking of making apologies the next day, I had to do it there. How about that? 1:11 Eastern, 11:11 Mountain. Do me a favor in whatever struggles you're in right now, folks.
Beautiful.
Visualize a positive outcome. That's what I've been doing a lot lately. So, to the CFL chatter, Tim Capper has joined us from Montreal, and he has entered the chat. I got to go back here and find his. Here's Tim Capper from the Alternative podcast. They cover the Montreal Alouettes. He said, Rod, while I love the idea of CFL Plus, when was the last time the Grey Cup wasn't on U.S. broadcast television? For those that don't know and just joined, the Canadian Football League announcing they're furthering their commitment to fans by providing free access to more games than ever before. A verified email is all you need to unlock the league's first ever live streaming platform, CFL Preseason Live and CFL Plus. The full slate of preseason games this year will now be accessible to fans. In the United States, CBS Sports Network and CFL Plus will split broadcasting duties, while the online platform will also deliver the full season to all fans outside of North America. As you know, Darren, and our viewers do too, I've been coming to the States for a long time when the CFL season ended, spending the winter here, but it was in Arizona for a long time. And a lot of my friends there were watching the games on ESPN or ESPN2, whomever was airing it at the time. It was a good thing. My guess is the CFL is thinking right now that, well, if you bought a streaming package all year in the States, what's one more game for the Grey Cup? I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know how they think. I know how they used to think, but I don't know how they think anymore. That's why we don't have a real close association. I'm sitting here going, I'm happy that I can get every game. I'm happy. That's how I'm looking at it. If I'm paying all year to stream it on CFL Plus in the States, what's one more week to do it for the Grey Cup? Do you not think that's what they're thinking, Moose?
Yeah, and I think there's going to be, the opportunity for the Grey Cup to still be on, cable television and available on the main network across, all of the United States. They're going to see how this goes. You're telling me if this goes well and the numbers are good and they're happy and they say, look, we want to put the playoffs and the Grey Cup on here. We want these games on the network. The CFL is going to say no? No. The deal will be open for that. So, and at worst case scenario, it's going to be available on the stream. So I think it's a win-win. I really think it's a good thing. You got to look at why this is good for the league instead of always trying to figure out why it's bad. And there's some real positivity here around this platform, and this is just the beginning. Now that you've established a platform, you can see how it goes, and this opens up other content ideas and opportunities to expand the platform.
I'm trying to be positive about the CFL. In certain ways, work with the CFL, like the fan bus that we're running, Saskatchewan and Calgary. So you just put it very well. I don't want to look at why this is bad. I don't know. I look at the people that are ripping the ever-loving you-know-what out of the NHL, and I can name them. Ryan Whitney, Spittin' Chicklets, Bob Stauffer, the Oilers color guy. It's not a short list of people that are ripping the NHL for various things or ripping ESPN. What does Whitney say? They don't give an F about the NHL. I don't really want to be that guy, but that's what gets all the reaction, Moose. Have you noticed that? That's what gets, I don't want to be that guy. I want to work with the CFL because I watch every game. I go to as many games as I can, and I love the league. Do I think the Grey Cup should be on national television in the States? Yes, I do. I'm sure they tried. Anyways, Moose may or may not be back later this hour. That's his decision. But when we come back, we got a guy that works in the National Hockey League, the CFL, the OHL, the Canadian Elite Basketball League, the Canadian Premier League, AJ Jakubec from Ottawa. So thanks, Moose. We'll see you later. And AJ will respond to all of these things, including the firing of Kyle Dubas when we return. We're live. Canada's daytime sports talk show is right here on the Game Plus television network. We're Atlanta's NHL show on the radio, WQEE. Of course, we're in podcast and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902 518 3033.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
I gotta hit the beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Huge day in sports on this Friday out of the NHL. Kyle Dubas is out as general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. The team said today, quote, they're parting ways with a 37-year-old executive. The Leafs won a playoff series for the first time in nearly 2 decades this spring when they defeated Tampa Bay in round 1, but then bowed out to Florida in round 2. And from the CFL, the BC Lions announced today that the club has signed a new 2-year contract partnership with Chorus Entertainment to keep the club's radio broadcasts on AM 730 and across the Lions audio network. Returning to the booth, Bob the Moj Marjanovic and Julio Caravetta to call the games. Joining us to talk about all these things is our good friend AJ Jakubec. He's a busy guy, joins us from the nation's capital, voice of the Red Blacks, host of the Senators, voice of the 67s. I won't go through it. We only got 20 minutes. AJ, were you surprised by the Kyle Dubas news today?
Not really. Maybe a little surprised on the wording of the press release, because when you listen to him talk last week, or earlier this week, I should say, it certainly sounded like it might be his decision if he was coming back or not, that he sounded like a guy that was burnt out. So we'll see what the Leafs do. And you knew there was going to be change, and major change, when they just didn't get the job done, especially the way they bowed out in round 2 to the Florida Panthers. So I don't know what the answer is there. You look at their forwards, and I thought Ray Ferraro said it best: guys that kind of go to the puck and not through it, guys that go to the line and not through it. And when your core guys are all kind of cut from the same cloth, I'm curious to see what they do and if they move one of them in the offseason.
Gretzky said it last night on TNT as well. They at least got a bunch of players on milk cartons, i.e. they disappeared. So, yeah, it's a good point, but then the Leafs are looking for a new head coach. Then, too, you would think, right, with Sheldon Keefe.
Well, and I wonder if that was part of the deal that, Kyle Dubas, he's a very loyal guy. I know him going back to his days in the Sioux when he worked with Sheldon Keefe. So if maybe they didn't like his plan, whether it was with the core guys, with the head coach, then maybe that's part of the reason that he's not back as well.
We're going to get to the CFL, and AJ is the voice of the Red Blacks, but I guess the biggest news is the ownership of the Senators. I'm kind of tired of it sitting out here. Are you tired of it? Like, what's that Ryan Reynolds situation was one big, wild goose chase.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a wild goose chase because I know there is genuine interest from Ryan Reynolds to own the Ottawa Senators. I'm told he's still talking to at least one of the groups. Now, I was also told by the same source that I wouldn't bet on any kind of marriage, but maybe that's part of the reason why this is taking so long, because typically when you talk to people that are familiar with, sales of major franchises in major leagues, when you have a bidding process, you should be able to find out generally pretty quick. But the fact that we're still waiting here leads me to believe, okay, are they trying to marry some of these groups? Are they, could there be a merger between the groups? We found out today that Donovan Bailey is going to be part of the Nico Sparks group, which includes Snoop. So there's a lot of jockeying for position. Should know for sure at some point next week. But yeah, I think there's no doubt Ottawa Senators fans, they want to know who the owner is going to be. And then, they can start looking at some of the big issues addressing this franchise, whether it's off the ice with a new arena, whether it's going to be downtown, whether they stay in Canada, and on the ice with the direction of the hockey club. Does the GM stay? Does the head coach stay? What do you do with a guy like Alex DeBrincat, who's 1 year away from unrestricted free agency? So a lot of question marks surrounding this franchise on and off the ice right now. But until the ownership is solved, it's hard to know which direction they're going to go.
You were nice enough to bring me on your radio show. I think it was a week ago today, and I really enjoyed it. And I want to return the favor and talk about all those things and more. We talked about the Panthers there. Here, let's talk about the Ottawa Red Blacks. My good friend, 57-year-old Bob Dice, taking over a Canadian Football League team for the first time. He's been a CFL lifer. Twice he's been a head coach on the interim and done good things. Is he going to be the guy to restore the Red Blacks to prominence in the Canadian Football League?
I think so. You can just tell he commands respect. He's, as you mentioned, a CFL lifer that has done a fantastic job. I mean, one of the things we've heard, he arrived in Ottawa in 2016 at the end of the 2015 season. And that was a Red Blacks team in 2015 that won 12 games and lost in heartbreaking fashion late to Edmonton in the Grey Cup in Winnipeg. And they're really good on offense. They're really good on defense, but special teams was woeful that year. And Bob Dice came in, and ever since he arrived in 2016, it was one of the best units in the league. Even when they've been bad the last 3 seasons, special teams was always at or near the top of the league. So he commands respect from that group. I know he certainly commanded respect towards the end of the season when he took over. So I think the fact that it's his show from day one, he's built a really good staff with really good coordinators in Kari Jones and Baron Miles. And then you look at the coaching staff up and down, experienced guys. I mean, Corey McDermott handling special teams now. You look at Travis Moore coming in. Mike Fair's a guy with 20 years experience in the NFL, and it goes on and on and on. So I think starting with Bob Dice, but continuing through that coaching staff, this looks like a group that should be able to turn things around. I think the roster's better, but the all-important question is quarterback and the health of Jeremiah Masoli. I'm not even sure he's going to be ready to start the regular season. I don't think he's going to play in the preseason at all. So look, he's still doing drills right now and looks pretty good, but until he's able to actually go on the field and show that he can be the guy again, this might be Nick Arbuckle's team, at least to start the season. So definitely that's the biggest question mark going into the season. But I don't have any question marks when it comes to Bob Dice as the head coach of the Ottawa Redblacks.
No, I don't either. And for Bobby's sake, I want them to do well, but I don't expect a lot out of the Ottawa Redblacks in year one under him and year two under Sean Burke. Convince me why I'm wrong and why you're optimistic.
Well, I think they're a playoff bubble team. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're going to win 12 games and win the Grey Cup, but I do think they're a playoff bubble team. I think the East is wide open. I would say Hamilton and Toronto 1 and 2, and Ottawa battling with Montreal for the third spot, along with maybe Edmonton and Saskatchewan and whoever might be in play for a crossover from the West. So I think they're going to be competitive. They've really built themselves in the trenches. Lorenzo Malton's the best pass rusher they've ever had, and they got him locked up after he won Defensive Player of the Year last year. They've really prioritized the offensive line. Last year, Jacob Ruby they brought in, and he was an all-star. Drew Desjardins is a player that was a really strong member of the Grey Cup champion Winnipeg Blue Bombers before trying his hand at the NFL. Didn't cut it with the New England Patriots, so he's back, and he'll anchor that line along with Ruby. And they've drafted 3 guys in the last 2 years in round 1 and then 10th overall, guys that could start on the offensive line as well. So to give you an example, Hunter Stewart, who was a starter last year and a veteran in the Canadian Football League, right now he's probably going to be a backup on the offensive line. So I think one guy, and you'll be pleased to know this, Shaq Evans has come in because he's dealt with some major injuries, but healthy a few years ago. He's one of the best receivers in the league. He looks fantastic. So if he can continue to be healthy, along with Jalen Acklin, Justin Hardy's a guy that played 5 years in the NFL, and I thought had a real good rookie season last year. So they've got some pretty good receivers. They're deeper in the secondary. I just think they're better everywhere on their roster. So between that and again, just having a fresh voice as head coach of this football team, I think it's worth a few more wins. It better be worth some more home wins, because there's no doubt that's been the issue the last few years. They've only won 1 of their last 24 at TD Place.
I appreciate our Rod Squad, the audience chiming in. Ryan McCarthy in New York State says, former New York Jet Lorenzo Malden, glad to see he's excelling in the CFL. From John Ohm, he says, I played touch football with Bob Dice. Great guy. Swerve in Calgary says, could a CFL team beat Alabama or Georgia? It's a fun debate that we don't have time for here today. I'll say no. Yes or no?
I'll say no as well.
Yes or no? Okay, no, they can't.
Yeah, I'll say no as well. It's just, and it depends on the rules, right? I think one of the things people forget about the Canadian Football League is if they come up and play Canadian rules, there are players that are tailor-made for the Canadian Football League that play positions that might be undersized in the NFL, but are tailor-made because of the bigger field. So, smaller linebackers, for example, you got guys like Avery Williams, 5'9", 185 pounds, and he's flying around there as middle linebacker, and he's been one of the best in the league. So it's just, you can't really compare apples to apples, because this is a league, much like European hockey. There's certain guys over there that have more success than guys that have had long careers in the NHL, because they're tailor-made to the European game.
It's interesting you say that. Allie in Texarkana is watching. She says, I wish they would. I think she's saying she wishes they'd play. It's an age-old discussion. My good friend Chris Jones, who coached at Alabama, will tell you no matter where they play, the CFL team will win. Paul LaPolice has told me if you played it in a CFL stadium, the CFL team would win with CFL rules. And if you played it in the States with American rules, they call it the best college team would win. But anyways, I didn't mean to go down that road, but where I do want to go down to end this is I was on a show, it was in Michigan the other day, with Big Lou Gamelin, and he asked, how is the state of the CFL? And I said, I don't really know. I'm not on the front lines anymore like I was, but they're playing, so I got to assume it's good. AJ, you're in it. How would you answer that question? Because we've had those debates for years, you and I. How's the state of the CFL today as they get set to kick off a new season?
It's a great question. I mean, look, they survived the pandemic when I think a lot of people were concerned that they would, when they didn't even play a year and then a shortened season the next year. And, even within the shortened season, there were certain places, especially in the East, where crowds were limited to 12 or 15,000, depending on where you were playing. So they were able to get through that. They got through a full season last year. I think as long as you've got a decent television contract in this country, the CFL is going to be able to survive. But clearly, they're looking at different ways to grow the league with demographics problems. One of the things, I don't know if you saw that Angus Reid poll a few months ago, but just, that was interesting because it seemed like, at least from a demographic standpoint, it had flatlined. Under 55 is a problem, but it's no bigger problem, for example, 18 to 34 than it is 35 to 54. So at least that gives me hope that it's not like it's off a cliff and continually going down from, say, 35 to 54 to 18 to 34. So there are issues in the league. Quarterbacking is one thing that, especially with two other leagues, the USFL and the XFL, competing for talent, that, this league, the product's always good as long as the quarterbacks are really good. So hopefully they can continue to, produce some really good quality quarterbacks in this league. And if that's the case, then I think that, along with a decent television contract, is enough to at least keep it around for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I have incidents in my life even now that come up that just, my heart just turns to a block of ice, like, and the second I saw that Angus Reid poll results that said 1 in 9 Canadians identifies themselves as a CFL fan, that should turn CFL people, especially the head office, their heart to a block of ice. That should scare the living bejeepers out of them. Because I'd love to know what the poll would be. Ask those 9 Canadians if they're hockey fans or NHL fans. You know what the answer. My guess would be about 80%. Don't you think?
They had that information in there. If you looked a little bit deeper, it wasn't as. It was under 50%, because remember, they're not asking just sports fans, they were asking the average person, right? And I guess, we're in our world where sports, hey, it unites people like nothing else. But, there are a lot of people that don't like sports for whatever reason. I don't understand those people, but hey, they're all entitled to their opinions, right?
We don't talk to them. They polled people that AJ and I don't even know, but we wouldn't even talk to. All right, buddy, keep in touch. Let's do it again soon.
Always a pleasure. Time to hunt.
You betcha. Let's go, let's go, Panthers. The great AJ Jakubec joining us from the nation's capital, all the way to the Stanley Cup. I don't know if Moose is coming back or not, but you've got me for sure for the next 25 minutes till we close this thing out today. So fire it up. It's just us. 902-518-3033. The number to text. Of course, you can always reach us in the streaming. We'll get to your questions down here. And by the way, Allie in Texarkana says, just to clarify her statement, she says, I wish they would play, and I wish the CFL team would win. I get tired of Bama. LOL. Let's have some fun. Let's hear from you people. When we come back, we're live on Game Plus Television. We are Atlanta's NHL show on WQEE Radio. Of course, we're in podcast and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
The scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
I'll tell you, they are buzzing where I reside. Florida Panthers up 1-0 in the Stanley Cup Eastern Conference Final. The Miami Heat up 1-0 in the NBA Eastern Conference Final. Game 2 is tonight in Boston. Heat up 1-0. Blue Jays home to the Baltimore Orioles, opening a weekend set there today. I should run through this whole schedule. Game 1 of the Western Conference Final in the NHL opens tonight. Dallas at Vegas, 8:30 Eastern. The Western Hockey League Championship could be decided tonight. It's Winnipeg at Seattle. TSN has it. Thunderbirds up 3-1. And at the Centennial Cup, the National Junior A Hockey Championship, which we love so much. 2 quarterfinals today. Collingworth, Ontario versus Ottawa, Ontario. And Yarmouth versus Portage. The winners will advance to play Brooks and Battlefords tomorrow. The sports update is for Transformer. Rise of the Beasts, in theaters June 9th, returning to the action and spectacle that have captured moviegoers around the world. Transformers Rise of the Beasts will take audiences on a 90s globe-trotting adventure with the Autobots and introduce a whole new breed of Transformer, the Maximal. In theaters June 9th, Transformer Rise of the Beast. Producer Clark tells me that indeed Darren Moose DuPont is here. And Darren was very excited when he was here in South Florida last week. He saw they've named a street after him, DuPont Road, in Fort Lauderdale. This is quite interesting. Who opened up the can of worms? It was Swerve in Calgary. Would a CFL team beat Alabama or Georgia, 2 of the best U.S. college football teams? Jeff, the Stamps fan, says, and I'm reading this to you, Darren, because I want your opinion. You're the football guy, more so out of the 2 of us. He says, Jeff, the Stamps fan says, do people really think Georgia or Alabama would beat a CFL team? There's no way. No matter what rules or what field they play on, you're comparing amateur boys to professional men.
From Craig Campbell from the Hockey Hall of Fame, he says CFL teams would beat U.S. college teams and crush most. Pros versus youngsters, even though college teams could have several quality players, CFL players were top players on their college teams. There's more, and I'll get to that. I'll get to your rider questions in a second. Thank you, Leanne. But you want to take a swing at this piñata Moose that they've put out here on this Football Friday?
I do. You know, I love the people who, I love the debate. I really do. And it's totally fictional because we have no idea. Even if you put it in a video game. The thing is it's like 1%. It's such a, like, less than 5% of college football players even have a sniff of playing professional ball, right? So in the CFL, you have like the 1%. In the NFL, you have the 0.1%, right? Like, it is so hard to make it to pro ball. So yes, the CFL should beat college football teams. It's the Alabamas and the Georgias, like literally the top 1% of college teams, number 1 or number 2 in the country, would be the only teams that would have a shot. I think Alabama or Georgia of recent years would give a CFL team a real run for their money. That would be a great game. I think it would be a really good game. I really do. But for the most part, no. CFL teams should beat college football teams, hands down.
Michael Wynn checking in from Winnipeg, just saying happy May long, everyone. Runs the sporting good store there in Winnipeg. Thank you, Michael. Good guy. We'll never know, of course, but we came close one time. And I'm sorry, I just got to go back into my past. People like the stories here. It's not my past per se, but, and I apologize if I got the years wrong a little bit here, but in the 90s, when New Kids on the Block were hot and Backstreet Boys, I'd get out your turtleneck and gold chain, Moose. The Regina Rams junior football program were smashing everybody in Canada in the junior football. So much so that their coach, Frank McChrystal, whose nickname is Slick, was openly challenging the University of Saskatchewan Huskies coach Brian Towers to play a game. Let's meet and let's play. Of course, Towers had no reason to win. If you win, you're supposed to. If you lose, holy spit. He didn't even acknowledge Frank. But that was the debate. Could the best junior team by a mile in Canada, beat the local university football team? And it never happened. But a couple years later, that Rams team went to university football. And if you remember, do you know what their record was the first year?
I don't. Wasn't good, though.
0-8. 0-8, and they weren't close. They got killed by every team in university football. Every team, 0-8. So, in this vein, I misanswered. I said, no, the CFL team couldn't beat those two. Yes, they could beat those two. And we'll never really know the answer. There's a story from where it was close to happening, and it didn't happen. Like, they weren't even close. But I go to Fort Lauderdale here, 13th ranked high school team in all of America. Cardinal Gibbons Chiefs spoke to them in their locker room about motivation and life goals, and those, I kind of think they might beat a Canadian university team. Sorry. These guys are beasts. Physical beasts. But probably if they played, they wouldn't win. But I'd like to see that game too. Garrett Mathiasen writes in and says, how about the Rams' second year, Rod? How about it? We're not talking about the second year. We're talking about the first year. Because then now they've got the time to make the adjustments and tweak their roster. How was their second year? They brought in Darrell Leeson. That might have been the year that they went to the Vanier Cup, but they had a freaking quarterback who was older in university football than all the CFL quarterbacks. We're not talking about the second year. Anyways, what? That's called, I think in the recovery world, redirection. Or out in the street, bait and switch. Don't try and distract me. I'll eat your lunch. Leanne, by the way, writes in, long-time caller to my former radio show, and she says, "Hi, Rod. I was really hard on Jeremy O'Day last season, but I will give early kudos to the promising linemen he brought in on both sides of the ball and fresh, new, faster receivers. Cautiously optimistic." Here's what I'll say about that. She's talking about the general manager of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who I feel has a lot to prove in his role. Go back last hour, Leanne, we had Taylor Shire on live from Saskatchewan Roughriders training camp, and he said everybody looks good now. So I'm glad that you're cautiously optimistic. I'm a little more realistic with it. Anyways, we'll be back with overtime right after this with the Moose. So get your questions in for both of us, 902-518-3033. We're live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, podcast, and streaming.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
You got something to say? You want to add to the show? What are you waiting for? Don't just sit there. Say something. Now, back to the studio with Rod.
All right, yes, I'm in one studio, the Florida studio. Moose is back home in the NHL's Bermuda Triangle, and let's bring him in. Overtime is brought to you by the Four Seasons Sports Palace, your home for the UFC and the Stanley Cup playoffs. And by the way, Big John in Edmonton writes in and says, I just got to read this. Did you talk about CFL Plus for international and USA fans and CFL preseason live? Yes, John, about 5 times today. You're welcome.
Hot damn!
Folks, if you're buying an RV, and who isn't, make it Woody's RV World. And we've sweetened the pot. Not we. I can't take credit for this. Woody's RV World has. Russ over there. They're doing buy one, get one. Woody's would like to bring you and a loved one or a friend on our football road trip on them. Purchase an RV at Woody's, any one of their locations. And if you buy a ticket to join us on the football road trip, Woody's will buy you an additional ticket. Bring your best bud, your kid, your significant other. Heck, even bring grandma. You can get your tickets now at rodpeterson.com. Stop into Woody's RV World for details. Ryan O'Radio writes in and says, another great RP show. Thank you, Ryan O'Radio. By the way, there will be no show Monday. Might as well tell you that now. It's a national holiday in Canada. So consider yourself told. Thank you, Ryan. Please and thank you. We have text messages here. Larry Sweet is watching the show in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and he's written in and says, Rod, tell Moose that with him moving to Toronto, hopefully he'll be attending Argonauts games. If so, would love to meet him when I come north to visit Chris. His son Chris is the offensive line coach of the Argos. Argos. Is your mind getting blown, Moose, with all the sporting opportunities and options that there are there in the GTA?
It's going to be something else. And yes, I will go to Argos games. So look me up. My social media is very open and public and easy to find. What does Dion say? I ain't hard to find. So hit me up with a DM, and you can buy me a coffee. We can meet at the game, whatever it takes. We're good.
How about that? Ryan in Toronto says, I'd love to see a Panthers versus Stars final. So I'm cheering for Dallas tonight, too. Jen from the Four Seasons says, unfortunately, I'm not too optimistic about the Roughriders season this year. I'm okay with being proven wrong, though. And we'll see if they're football's version of the Florida Panthers, because let's wind the show up with what we opened with, and that was last night's 4 overtime game. I'm happy that Darren was here. He provides a lot, particularly in the tech and lighting firm. Did you go to school for that, Darren? School of Hard Knocks. Yeah, yes. School of Hard Knocks. But you got the vibe. And, you know, Allie in Texarkana. You know, Allie, you'd get along a lot better with my niece and my brother because they're Stars fans because of Grandpa's time. I'm not anymore. I change teams like I change my underwear. But with Florida now, Darren's seen how they treat us. You were in a meeting the other day, and Serena was in it. That business guy said, because I didn't know the answer to it, the business guy says, how come the Panthers love your show so much? And Serena blurts out, because they're all Canadian. Rod's the only one down here talking about them. Sorry. So it's somewhat new for them. Even Bill Lindsay showed up, their color guy, and scored the greatest goal in Panthers history. He goes, it's fun to sit and talk hockey with somebody. You don't get to do that much down here. I find that very odd because our circle of friends, you've seen them, Darren, they're all hockey fans. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, there are hockey fans in all these little pockets of America. You just got to find them. And they're there, and for the most part, underserved. So it's good. It's good to make those connections, those relationships. And those Florida hockey guys, they don't have anybody to talk hockey with, especially professionally and on the air. So it's fun that you guys have found each other down there. I think that's really cool.
It is awesome. I love it. I've never been happier in my life. That's a fact. Nelson, our VP of Sim Events, says Panthers versus Knights, and Rod can't lose. I'd rather see the Panthers win the Stanley Cup out of the two. There's no doubt. But if Vegas wins, I'll be happy. Jen, furthermore, says, I'll be cheering for Dallas tonight. You all enjoy the long weekend. Allie says, but hey, I like the Panthers too. There's not a lot to not like about the Florida Panthers. I've been saying it for 2 years. Incredibly positive vibe. And I'm just so happy that they've welcomed me into the degree that they have, because, to be honest, number one, Jeff the Stamps fan wants to know if Moose is still going to be part of the RP show, despite the fact you're living in Toronto. And as far as I can tell, you can. You've joined us from everywhere else. So, yes, he will be.
How do you know where I am now?
Yeah, it looks like you're in Dallas. But the thing is, I need to stop the viewer comments for a second and just say, people are starting to get it. And I said this earlier. I don't think you were on the air when I did. I'm through the transition of the next phase of my life. You're just entering it. Have fun, Grasshopper, answering all the questions. Because all I want to do is sit here for 2 hours every day in the middle of the day and talk about what happened last night and what's coming up tonight and visit with my friends. That's all I want to do. I do not want to call games anymore, and people they don't ask anymore, and it's great. You know, and people aren't afraid of me stealing their job because I'm not trying. I just want to come in and do my thing. And there was a guy, Kevin Calabro, outstanding voice of the Seattle Supersonics for years. And when the Sonics moved to Oklahoma City, he had the option to go with them, but he's like, I don't really want to leave Seattle. I think I just want to stay here and do a talk show. That was in the 90s. Or that's when I first knew of him. And I'm like, hey, I get it. I get it, bro. We should all be happy in life. That's our birthright. Yeah. Moose, you have a great long weekend. And for God's sakes, be safe.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week. All right. Big thank you to AJ Jakubec. Great show today. Taylor Shire for joining us. Clark for putting it all together. Bryn for putting it together. Wayne in BC says, Rod, you have the greatest job in the world. Finally, somebody knows. Are we hitting music? Oh, we are. Sorry, I didn't know if I was ahead of time. That's on me. We'll see you Tuesday at noon Eastern on Game Plus and here on The Key.
Who has more fun than us?